All right, and we're back with day 3 of the website launch bootcamp. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you're still with us after we threw a whole lot of branding at you in the previous 2 sessions.
This is the fun part because you actually get to use it.
Yes, so today we're going to be going over how to make your own logo, and I'll also share some resources if you want to outsource that task. We'll be using Canva, which you can use the free version of that. It's sort of a nice design software that is pretty easy to use. I am not actually a graphic designer, and I actually made our little logo here using Canva, so I'll show you how I did that. But before we jump into that, as I mentioned, logo creation is the topic for today. DIY, Canva's recommendation, outsourcing. Again, you'll have access to these slides in your module, but these are the 2 websites that I use the most when I am looking for graphic designers. Graphic design can be a big piece of your website design, depending on the look and feel you're going for. So this might be a good resource for everyone if they want to have some extra layers and design elements in their site. CreativeLadyDirectory.com and outsourcingwithlove.com. These can also be great resources for those of you who are service providers. If you are a graphic designer yourself, website designer like myself, even copywriter like Lauren, you can actually submit yourself to any of these websites and be part of the directory. So then you can get business from them. So it's a good tool to keep in mind for that reason. But today, logo design, I do want to mention a big thing is logo orientation. You want to remember, keep in mind this is going in your website, and this will be important if you really want to have like a very slim menu bar. Is sometimes very fashionable these days. The logo that I created, for instance, you can see here, if I made this small enough to fit into a slim menu header, the text would be illegible. You would not be able to read it. So just keep that in mind when you're designing your logo. These circle ones are kind of fashionable these days. A lot of people have something like this. They're really good for print. They're good for like the big backspace of a business card. They're not great for that placement in your website menu if you want it to be slim. This is an example of a client logos of mine. This one has a little bit more width to it, but it can also fit into a menu bar in a very slim space. And I'm going to actually pull out of Canva, which is what I'm using to design these slides, and I'll show you some of these logos. So this is sort of what tends to be fashionable these days. People really like the slim menu bar. So if that's really important to you to have a slim menu bar, make sure you design your logo to be slim. You don't have to do it that way though. You can see I actually have my website here and Lauren's because we actually have different menu styles. So see here, my menu is on the left. I have a good amount of real estate available for my logo. This one, the text is pretty large, so I could have it more slim in a smaller menu. It'd just be a lot smaller. Here it shows bigger. And you can see if you do like that circle logo look, I have a placement for something like that down here on my site. Lauren has some more design detail to her logo, and she wanted to have sort of the by Lauren in there. So you can see her logo is taking a little bit more real estate. It's making her menu bar larger. Her site is a great example because it is a Squarespace site, which we'll be doing in week 3. So just keep in mind, like if you want a bigger logo, you might need to go with a wider menu bar like this, which is a totally valid choice. It's actually easier to read for most people. They're going to be able to find all of your options better. But if you do want to go with that sort of what's now sort of in vogue, very slim menu, you're going to need to design a very small, not a lot of orientation logo. So
well, and look how simple you can have a logo. Like that is just a nice script font, but it's readable, and that's it. And it's beautiful.
Right. So there's a whole gamut of things you can do. See, I have a bit more, it's only text, but a bit more sort of color elements. This plus sign would get lost if it was too small. And then Lauren has more of these design features. This I cannot teach you how to do in Canva. I'm assuming Lauren hired somebody to do this for her.
Oh yeah, heck yes. Yes. As my designer friends tell me, Lauren, you're a little extra.
There you go. No, but she carried through, you can see it's part of the design motif of her website. She carries through those nasturtiums, right?
And those came from Creative Market, which is another design resource where you get beautiful images like that you can play with in things like Canva.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so another great resource, and just, things to keep in mind as you start to think about how you want to design your logo. I have a lot of clients come to me to do their website, and they have a logo more like the one that we have made here for Website Launch Bootcamp, and they want this logo and a very tiny menu. And I'm like, sorry, we just can't do it. And then they often have to go back to their logo designer and pay for another version. So just, be aware of thinking that through before you go to outsource it or even put time into designing it yourself. If you do want to design it yourself, though, this is where we'll jump into Canva.
I'm excited. I've been terrified of Canva for years. Did you know?
There you go. See, we're gonna convert Lauren in the session. I'm gonna have you tell me if you can still see the screen if I open up a blank window. Are you seeing the incognito screen, Lauren?
I think I am. No, I'm not seeing the incognito screen.
I'm gonna see if I can switch quickly. Screen share. New share. There we go. That way we can just run through the process of actually setting up an account if you do not happen to have one. Cool. So it's canva.com. It's like canvas, but without the S, CANVA. In case you just are completely new to this. If you come here, you're going to see this screen. So this basically shows you, they offer a bunch of different options. It's really great because they'll give you the dimensions of like a Facebook or Instagram post. If you open these up, you don't have to bother with the dimensions of the actual canvas you'll be designing on. They also do have logo templates. What we're just going to go ahead and do is hit sign up. And you can sign up any way you want to, Google, Facebook, sign up with your email, and then that will sort of give you access to all of the design tools. So I'm going to X out of this, and then I probably need to switch my screen share, or I think it actually switched for me. So now we're in my account. I do have a paid account, which you do not need to have, but I think basically everything we'll be doing today will be fine. Like you don't need the paid account to do it.
I have the free account, so maybe I'll just do a little practice along with you.
Yeah, so every step of the way. So then you can just, give me a yell if you're like, wait, I don't have that option. So there are two things we can do. We can actually just select this logo option, or if we go to create a design, we can type in logo. And I'm gonna go ahead and select this. So the thing is, you'll see here, they all show that 500 by 500 pixels. That means they're gonna be more of that circle dimensions. They're going to be a bit taller and wider. And you see, you actually have a lot of options here to make a circle logo. So if that's your style, you can go ahead and just select that logo option. And then you can work with any of these templates to get something like those sort of circle insignias. So the one I just selected, you see here, it says Pro with a little crown. So if you do see a template you really like, but it's Pro, you might have to upgrade. It's $15 a month upgrade for this month while you make your logo, and then you can downgrade again. But you can also see here, oh, 1 second here. I forgot to mention up top, my daughter's home because of COVID protocols today. So I will edit out anything that's too disruptive. Just give me 1 moment.
Day in the life, guys, day in the life.
But yeah, so this one is a free version. You still have that circle. You can edit colors. Very simply, if you select them, you'll see the colors up here. So I can make the background white. And then you'll see here what they actually did is they have the purple background and everything. So I'll select every single individual element. And then here, if I get the text, I'm going quick on this now. I'm going to go into greater detail on a longer format logo. But see, if you select every element, you can kind of dictate how you want it to look. So this is the text color. Now I have the box, so I'm going to make that white. There are lines. I think I deleted the lines actually. So, but here, so it's really easy to select the elements and then alter the colors. So you can play around, if you wanted to do a circle logo or a wider, bigger, more real estate taking up logo, stick with the design you have now or go ahead and pick one out. I'm going to go ahead and show those of you who want to do a longer style logo how we're going to create that. So I'm going to go back to my main Canva screen, create design. Again, I'm going to X out logo. I'm going to come down to custom size at the bottom. And here I want to make it so that it's a much wider logo than it is tall. And that's going to give me the sort of thinner bandwidth logo, or not thinner bandwidth, but thinner height logo to keep the menu bar slimmer. So what I like to do, you can see here, I actually have some of them in here. 1000 by 500 is a good one to start out with. I'm actually going to go a little bit wider today. So I'm going to do 1200 by 500. Create a new design. And now it's going to give me a canvas that you can see is much wider than it is tall. So I'll toggle between my two screens. So you see here, same width, same height. So it's this little square. Now I have more of a rectangle to work with. If you want to make a super slim logo, you can go as far as to do 1200 pixels by 300 pixels when you create that custom canvas. Lauren, are you able to create a custom canvas size?
Yeah, I just did the same dimensions that you have, but I'm intrigued by that even skinnier one.
Yeah, so you just go back if you want to do that. If you, and you can kind of do this by eyesight. So if you log it, it's like, okay, that still looks pretty wide. Go back to your home screen and again, select the same. You'll see this is still open. So you can do that 1200 by 300. It'll open up a new tab design for you.
All right, I'm going to try 1200 by 300.
Perfect. So I'm just going to pause for a quick second so everybody can sort of get their canvas set up. The one benefit, if you are going to go for that sort of wider, taller, let's say chunkier logo, you already have logo templates. The templates that will pop up are meant for logos. You can see for these custom canvases that Lauren and I are working with, they're giving us some sort of weird things over here because they're like, what are these people trying to create? So not everything that you're going to see here is going to make sense for a logo. We're going to be really customized, like creating it from scratch. And so next steps are typically we're going to want some text. If you've already given thought to your brand fonts, this is where you might use one of them. You might go ahead and choose one of them. One of the things I like to do a lot for websites is if my client doesn't already have a logo designed, if I'm working with my graphic designer to design a logo while we're doing the website, I'll actually pick a font that is complementary, but not the same. That way it kind of gives it a little extra, I don't know, like this is the logo. It's just not like part of the website. Like it's actually like a slightly separate piece. So that's one way to go about it, or you can definitely use your actual font choices if you've already gone ahead and selected those. And the good news is if you're DIYing this, it's going to be really easy to change later if you decide that you do want to use your exact brand fonts, if your brand fonts change, or if you happen to pick a font and then you put it in your website and it doesn't exactly resonate with you anymore. So to add text, we're going to go ahead and select text here on the left-hand side. And yours will look a little bit different than this. I actually, because I have the Pro, I actually have this set to very old branding. I need to update it because I don't use any of these fonts anymore. If you have the Pro account, you can actually set your brand kit. So your fonts and your colors. So they'll just be here every single time. It's a very handy feature that I am not taking advantage of at the moment, but go ahead and select add a heading font. It doesn't actually matter which one you choose, but the heading font will be the largest. And here is where you can go ahead and I'll just use my website name. So I'm Kara & Co Creative. Actually, you know what? I'm going to create a longer format website launch bootcamp logo so that we have that. And I will actually open up our old one so I can actually figure out what fonts I used. Allegra Sans. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, come up here to this is what will change the font. So it's currently in this playlist caps. I want to put it in Allegra Sans. So if you know your font name, you can type it in here if you have one that you definitely want to use. And then you can change it. Or if you don't know what you want to use yet, you can just scroll through. There's a lot of options. I'll have a few more in here. The Pro account does come with some different fonts. So again, if you don't see something you like, maybe upgrade this for the month while you're creating this. But you can run through and there's a ton of options here.
Okay, I'm running into some difficulties just trying to change the font.
All right, so do you want to share your screen?
Yes, let me share my screen. Okay, so this is where I am, and I successfully added a heading and a subheading.
Oh my God, she went ahead of everybody.
So I'm selecting my heading. Mm-hmm. How do I change the font?
Okay, great. So this is something I go very fast. So this is why it's really important Lauren's here today. So where you see to the right of where your cursor is, where it says Open Sans Extra.
Oh, right there.
Right. So if you select that, then it will open up that new. Perfect.
Okay, this is cool.
Right. So now you can go ahead and you can pick, whichever fonts you want. And hopefully everyone's sort of doing this alongside us. It'd be really ideal if everyone here had a split screen monitor, so you could keep us on one and work on the other. But we'll see.
And I am just fiddling with the size with these little.
Right. So I just grab the screen share back. So you're going to, select, play with whatever fonts you want. And if you need to change the size, obviously we have this whole canvas. We don't want the text to be this small. You can select all of it, and then you can increase it slowly, but we want to go a lot bigger probably for this. So I'm actually go ahead and just type in not 312, 120, see what that looks like. And sometimes you type in the size and it won't actually like change on the page until you click out of there. So it can be like, if you're like, hey, I just typed in 120, it's not changing, like click back into the design.
And if you're like me, you might just want to like pause this video right now and take 20 minutes to go through every single one of these fonts.
Yep. So go ahead and do that. Yeah. And it takes, there's a ton in there. So one thing I'm going to do, because you can see in our circle logo that we have, the website launch bootcamp is actually all caps. I can very easily do that here. All I need to do is come to not effects, guys, sorry. Here we go. So it's not in the top menu for me. It may be for you, but it's not for me. So this little 3 dots, this here is going to start changing the uppercase. So it automatically shifted that for me. Now, obviously it's way too big. So I'm going to go ahead and try 100. And okay, so I like this. I don't like this huge space here. So if you're seeing this issue, and again, good idea to pause and sort of make sure you're in the font that you like before you start playing around with the rest of this. But if you are kind of liking the font, you're liking the size, but you're like, there's a big gap here. I don't need that gap. Well, one option you might have, before I go ahead and do what I was going to do and show you, one option you might have is to come over to elements here. You can type in things. So you can like find random things. Like maybe I want to put, I don't even know what these are, like mushrooms, jellyfish. Maybe I want to sort of take up that space with the design thing. So they're in front of the text kind of awkwardly right now. I can put them behind the text by clicking this position up here. And now I'm going to go backwards so I can, oh no, what I want to just get the jellyfish now. And sometimes you got to move things because then I can't touch these. So I don't want those. Move this back up. But I might want something like, I might type in like a line, not a liner, line. There's different lines here. Maybe I want like a vine. See kind of, see here, it makes no sense for website launch bootcamp.
I like it for me though. I'm very much about the plants.
Right. So like, and again, like maybe I want this to be really small in between the 2 lines, or maybe I want it to actually span the entire back of that. So I can go ahead and select position again, and now it's behind my text. So you got a lot of options to really play around with in here, or I can go ahead and select it and make it super tiny, position it forward again so that I can edit it better. Maybe I want to do something, kind of like this and like put it in. So again, if you are liking the idea of putting stuff like in between your 2 lines, pause the video, you can type in a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of stuff. And again, you can see there are some options that I have here because they are pro. So like this vine, for instance, is pro. Let's see, what is there anything that's not pro? Here's this, does not make sense for the logo, but that's free. This vine here is free. So if you're not seeing stuff that you like, again, it's $15 for the month, upgrade for the month while you design your logo. And then, if you don't want to pay for another month, make sure you design out any other assets you think that you're going to need to have. If you don't want to put anything in between your 2 lines to sort of give it some, just, not awkward spacing, what you can do is click on your text so it's highlighted. And this here is your line height spacing. So my line spacing, I can shrink it. I can shrink it a lot. I can make it overlap. So that moves that. I can also do my letter spacing if I want to. So if I want to see what it looks like a little bit different, you can do all of that. Changing the color. This here is the color section. So if you click on this, here you can see, because I have the pro account, this is a bunch of different brands that I work with. So I have their brand kits in here so that everything's just there when I need it. You won't see that, but you can use your document colors to select a new one. So if I want to change this, you want to use a hex code. If you don't know the hex code you want, you can go to Google and type in something like hex color picker. And this is what, if you have your brand colors, you're going to want to know what their hex codes are so that you can use them in design elements. If you work with the designer, they will want your color codes. They might ask for some of these other ones like your RGB code, which always throws me off because I want to say RBG, but they might ask for that. So if you have a hex code and you need something else, you can always type it into a program or a little thing like this on Google to get the hex code. If you don't have your brand colors yet, and this is part of your process of finding them as you design your logo, you're going to just sort of slide around and you find like, okay, I kind of like this like blue. You can kind of make it deeper. You can drag it around in here until you find something you like. Then you grab the hex code. Once you have the hex code, come back here and you would just drop it in. And you can also do the same thing here. We're like, oh, I kind of actually, now that I see it on the colors, I don't actually like this exactly, but you can drag it around until you find what you like. I kind of like that.
I'm having the best time over here.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. You can do a lot. So then again, so we saw that Aaron, sorry, it's another one of my friends that I do business with, Lauren. She had put in a subheading. So if we want to do that, come back in here, add more text, and then we can do this, Kara and Lauren. And we can change that font as well. So this is where we might want to do something a little bit different. So here I have all the options.
I just came up with like a whole new service offering that I wasn't even expecting because I'm so inspired by this process.
There we go.
Let me share my screen real fast. Let me show everybody what I did. There we go. This is my new service.
Oh, see, she's even jumped ahead. She's got a whole background and stuff in there.
Yeah, I fell into the background somehow in the elements, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
Great. Well, that's something that's actually a good point. Some of you might have gotten frustrated when you're trying to add an element. Sometimes it decides like, oh, you want this to be the background. It will blow it up entirely over the entire background of it. So I can help any of you with that. It can be as a happy accident as it was for you. Like, great, I like the background. If you don't want it to do that, I'll give you an easy way to fix that. But there we go. But now Lauren's going to open a whole new business.
Yeah, pretty much. If you want to learn to paint very badly, that is going to be my next stop.
Perfect. Well, that'd be fun, right? Share screen here. I am. So yeah. So like, let's say, I'll show you sort of that issue, elements. It'll happen more often if you choose one of these kinds of things. So if I like drop that in, it's gonna, well, I don't know what that, no, that didn't actually do it that time. It's not, don't delete. Yes, delete you. Oh, I deleted my text. You can also do Control Z in Canva. I don't know what that is for Macs. Sorry for you Mac users, but for PCs, Control Z will undo something if you delete something you don't want to do. Yeah, let me see if that'll.
Control Z saved my bacon so many times.
Yes, it's a good one. So you see here, it automatically did that thing. It made it the entire background. If I don't want it to do that, I have to right click on it. And then you say detach image from background. And then it will let me then use it as a small element if I want to.
Oh.
So that's an easy way. Otherwise, you can delete the entire thing and try to add it again. But then sometimes you get into this thing where you add it again, it becomes the background. Delete it, you add it again, it becomes the background. So this is the easiest way just to detach it from the background so you can use it for whatever you want. Lauren, I am curious, if you come to download for your thing, does it give you the option to do the transparent background?
No, that is Pro.
Okay, so again, another feature that just for this month you're designing your logo, you might want to download upgrade to the Pro version, because this will give me the option to get a logo with a transparent background. That is important. If you ever want to put your logo on top of anything that's not going to match your background color. So this is white. So if I'm going to have a white menu, not a big deal. But then one day I might want to put it on like a PowerPoint presentation that has a background color. And then it's going to be this weird white box around the logo. So if you download it and you check this transparent background, again, you won't have that option unless you have the Pro account.
Which you can get for free for 30 days.
That is true. See, good. Thanks for bringing that up. See, you have that because I'm paying for it. So I don't have the reminders that I can opt in for it. But yeah, so opt in for that free 30 days, design out your logo, design out versions of your logo. If you're going to also do that circle version, I will go ahead. And for those of you who want to work from a template, if you're struggling with that, I will go over how to do that a little bit. So I'm going to,
And I will also say, while you're playing with your logos, create a version that will be visible on a dark background as well as on a light background, because a couple years down the line, you get a little savvy with the social media. You want to put your logo on your Instagram posts. You've got a dark one. You're going to need a lighter version of your logo that shows up. I just learned that last week.
right. Yeah. And then it becomes, especially if any, I mean, if I guess if you're going to work with a professional, you might not be watching still at this point, if you're going to have a professional design it, but that's important to ask of anyone who designs your logo, because if you don't have the original editable files, and then for some reason you can't get in touch with the person who originally did your logo, it can be very difficult then to get your exact logo made in the correct colors that you need. And it can be as simple as, for instance, for this one that I created, it's just basically turning all of this text white and then downloading it with a transparent background. So it is very simple if you are going to be doing it yourself in Canva. Just make sure you get those options. And a good point to do it if you're going to be using the free trial to get that transparent background feature, just make a bunch of versions now. All right, so if you want to use, I'll try to pick one that's free. Well, let's do this one. If you want to use a free template for a logo like this, and again, we just don't really have good logo templates in the wide version yet. Hopefully Canva will start doing that, because we do usually need a version like that. If you want to edit templated items, it's again pretty simple. You'll kind of sometimes might have to click around to make sure you're highlighting the right thing you want to edit. But if I want to change this circle color, well, first, I don't know why it's kind of a pet peeve of mine with Canva right now. I don't know why it's so small. Like, why is there so much white space around this logo? And that's the thing too, you can click and drag it. You see these lines that are appearing, that's telling me it's in the center. So now it's centered. I don't know why it's not giving me the option to edit this little circle. That makes me sad. That's because it's layered underneath. So I'm gonna make that one bigger first and try to center.
Yeah, sometimes to catch each layer, you've got to drag one layer way off to the side so you can actually catch the one underneath it. I've been struggling with that while I've been playing. And it, just drag something way off to the side, you can put it back.
Yep, exactly. And if like you get into trouble and you drag it away and you can't find it, then you can do Control Z, so then bring it back. So just, be patient with yourself and play around. So then I'm gonna go ahead and move everything centered on the new version. If my business doesn't make, if I like the overall look of this logo, but like I don't need a lotus design, I can go ahead and just delete that by hitting delete, or actually you could have hit the trash can up in your right that was there for a moment. And here I can search for something else. So
can we talk about maximalism, which is me, versus minimalism, which is like every designer with some training, and how to not create a cluttered mess out of your logo? Because you saw mine, like that is totally my instinct.
Right. And what I would say there is like, it comes down to just like individual taste. And right now we just happen to be in a time where like super minimalist designs are favored. And so people who just like to pare things down, I don't know, they just think that is tasteful. It's not always, it's just personal preference, so long as the caveat is, so long as it's still very easy to read. When you become sort of a maximalist and you're adding a bunch of stuff, and then like the design concept, just like if you don't even know what you're doing anymore, like you're not even sure what you're trying to represent, then it's just getting muddy. And if you actually can't read everything, then that also becomes a problem. But if like there's a lot of elements and you can still read it and it looks good to you and you really enjoy it and you share it with a few people and like, oh, that really does look like you, that's fine. Don't feel like you have to like make it super minimal just because like that's sort of the style these days. Just like don't feel like you have to have a super slim menu if it's not your natural, if that's not really what you're naturally inclined towards. You can have a much wider menu. And you can showcase a much bigger logo. You can, like, that's the thing. I have this menu on the left, like, again, not a very common choice, but it works for me and I like it. Mom. So here comes my kid again, 1 second. Mom. Yes, in time. But the point is, yeah, like really go with whatever you want to do that makes sense to you, so long as it is legible and easy for people to read, and your menu is easy for them to navigate.
Yes. And if you look at our logos, I'd actually love to ask you about your logo, because I know every element in mine, every little part of it is actually very intentional. And it goes back to what we were talking about yesterday and the day before about the branding philosophy, the psychology of color, all of those things actually get sort of distilled down into this very simple logo.
Sure. Do you want to start with yours or?
Yeah. So my logo is not the thing on the picture. It's actually the thing up on the top, Truer Words by Lauren. So when I was choosing colors, I want green. That green is very much on brand. It's not just my favorite color. It's also my favorite way to look at life. I'm always about growth mindset. I'm always about, let's nurture things. Let's plant seeds. It's very much a part of how I write, how I communicate with my people. So green is a very core color for me, but there's also this gold accent around the nasturtiums. And that is, it's symbolic to me. Nobody knows what this means, but I think the feeling of it comes through. Gold has that purity angle. It's got that sort of association with purity. It has that association with high value. And I love the geometrics because it's structure. Like the very definition of that rigid sort of metallic thing is this is a structure that you can grow with. So the little plant in the middle, the little nasturtium in the middle is something that's growing in the context of a structure. And that's very much how we do copy. Copy has a structure that allows you to grow. So even though my clients know none of this, you take a look at this and you're like, that's pretty. That is actually what's happening. That is what is infused into the energy of this logo. I work with woo-woo folks. We're all about the energy. And that's what's happening for me.
There we go. And see, there we go. There's lots of layers in there, and all, intentional, meaningful choices. So my logo, much simpler. I do have two versions. I have this version, and then this is sort of actually the full version because it has the creative piece in it. And so they're basically my brand colors. Again, I also really like green. And for me, it's not as much, I love the growth piece of it that you were mentioning. But I hadn't thought about that when I was sort of choosing my colors. But green for me is just like very lively. I'm gonna pause because my child's coming back. But green, yeah, just alive, vibrant, but also it can be a little bit more polished in the background. Like we sort of can take for granted some of the, the grass and the trees that are around, but like it tends to be green in a lot of our environments. And I find it to be grounding. So that's sort of like why I gravitate towards green and chose to use it as really the primary color in my brand. And then I'm a little bit more of a minimalist than Lauren. So the black and white, so I have black Caras anchoring it. And then creative, in the case of this one, is a little bit more of a muted color because I really am emphasizing this is me and also the people that I work with. My business is a little bit unique in that I do have a graphic designer on my team and she happens to be my mother. So like a mother-daughter team.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So the ENCO is important to me. I also do have a virtual assistant who does a lot of my design editing on the websites. And I'm actually working towards hiring her as a fully like design assistant, not a virtual assistant. So as I was creating this logo, I was thinking towards the future and that like, I don't want a huge team, but there's going to be more of a team brought on, and I want them to sort of really be a part of this company and to sort of share top billings. So it's like Cara and Co are on the darker colors up here, and create is what we do is down here. It's in the plus sign on this version of the logo. And that beige is really, it's sort of the consistent anchor of my website. So using it, this one's a gray, but here you see that sort of pinky beige. It appears more pink on my computer, it appears more tan on Macs. So depending on what you're looking at this from, it'll be a little bit more rosy or a little bit more tan. But that's something that I knew I was going to use a lot in the design of my website. And for me, it's sort of, again, it's calming. It's not too feminine, but it's sort of soft. And it's, very versatile to be used as a background on my website. My font choice for me is a little bit, I love sort of Art Deco things. So you can see I have this font here, which I don't recommend using maybe even as much as I have it on my website. It's all right. Children, phones, life is happening today. But I don't recommend using it maybe even as much as I have it on my own website. I just love this font to death. It does not make a great font for logos necessarily because it's a little bit louder than anything else that you would put into your logo. So instead I did choose this font, which is called Volcorn, which has a little bit more of that. It's not quite Art Deco, but a little bit more of that ornamentation. And I use that in other places on the site as well. Not there, but it's somewhere like here. It is one of my main heading fonts. So even though, there we go, that's the caveat. So even though I did say you might want to choose a font that's a little bit different from your core brand fonts for your logo, so it sets it apart, you can see on my own website, I actually did use a font that I do use in a lot of my headings. So you can go any way you want. That's just sort of two sort of ways to go about it that I've seen, using one of your exact fonts from your brand kit, or actually choosing a separate font that's complementary to really set your logo apart.
So how do you select complementary fonts?
It's really, I think, just what's pleasing to the eye. And so if you're somebody who is like dead certain that you have no design sensibility, put together what you like, genuinely like, maybe put together some options, and then ask a bunch of people to see what they think, to sort of get a baseline. And don't totally feel free though, like if you really love what you have and you think that they're legible together, go ahead and use it, even if you're not getting a strong reaction. But that said, you might want to just take in some feedback. So you can see again, I have a lot of different fonts here. So this is, like I said, the accent font, which I tend to use in an accent position. This is the main heading font. I had mentioned in that first presentation that more serif fonts they can be more legible in that header position. So this one is a bit more of a serif font. It does have some of that, again, I need to find out what those are called, but like that little tail on the T. The A is got that little thing on the top. So this is more of a serif font in the heading position. And then I do have a sans serif font in my body position. And this is sort of the pairing that I found to be legible on both my computer and on my phone. And this is it's a little bit on the small side, but I did, like I mentioned, I test with my father, make him look at my website with his glasses off. And this was the smallest I could get the font. And it wasn't so much that I wanted the font to be super small, because like I like small font. It's just kind of how I needed to be economical about certain positions on the page. And you can see that more in my about page, because it has more text on it. It's just like placing it by the photos. I wanted a bit smaller font so it would work. And again, you see this here as really just my accent font. Did you choose your fonts, or did your website designer really play a lead role in selecting everything?
I kind of gave her some ideas of fonts that I liked, and then she suggested these, and I've gotten actually really good feedback from neurodivergent followers on my Instagram, and they're like, what font do you use? It's so easy for me to read.
Oh, great.
And Poppins, it's a big open font, and that's what I use for my body.
Yeah, that's actually what's in all of our slides so far.
Oh yeah?
Where'd it go? Not that one, over here. But yeah, it's a heavier treatment of it, but these are both Poppins bold, and this is Poppins. Yeah, again, I thought
So
easy
Poppins,
to read.
like Mary Poppins, very easy to read. It's good to know.
Yeah. So that's sort of, as you're thinking about your fonts, especially how you want to maybe pull them into your logo, that's sort of how you might approach, selecting some things for that. But yeah, just to wrap up again, like you might just start from scratch and play with things. Hopefully you saw here how I sort of dragged this little computer icon over. Instead of that, if you need to change any of these items, like the fonts, just select it, and then you get the options here. You can play around with a lot of the stuff that's up here. Make it bigger. You can kind of just click and drag it out like this. It makes the circle bigger.
And as you're doing this, as you're finalizing your font selection, as you're figuring out what your colors are, for the love of all that will save you sanity in the future, write them down. Write them down. And this is what's called, it's like a brand board. Is that the technical term?
Yeah, or like a brand playbook. I sometimes see people calling it. Yeah.
Right. But it's basically a quick reference for you, for your future VA, for your current team, where you have the hex codes. Is that what it's called? What the code is for the exact colors?
But yeah, so the hex codes are what I like to work with as a website designer, because they are the shortest ones that I find available. If you do work with a designer, or if you eventually get some graphics made with an outside, outsourcing them, they might want a different color code. But as I showed you, you can go to Google and grab a different code by popping in what you have written down, because you wrote down your hex code. You can pop it in and easily find any of these other things that they might ask for.
So in Canva, where can you find the number of the color that you're choosing?
Good question. So if you have made your logo and you really like it, so let's work with this one here. So again, I want to know what font I ended up using to write it down. I can click on the element. This is Cormorant Garamond Light, I guess. And this one will tell me this one, Allegria Sans SC Black. And then this, to get the color code, I'm going to select this. And then, yeah, it's actually a good question. So if you hover, it'll appear here. You can also grab it if you go to add a new color. It will start with whatever you have highlighted. So this is actually the color code of what's highlighted here.
Great. Okay, that's great. And then, put that, I just have it in a Google Doc. I'm very informal, but it is somewhere where I can quickly access it as I go back to create Instagram posts and new headers and, images for my blog posts.
Right. And that's the thing. So you're starting with your logo. You'll probably want to use some of these colors when we get into website design in week 3. So you'll be pulling those codes. And yeah, going forward, social media posts, newsletters, you might be using the same colors in your newsletters if you're in MailChimp or ConvertKit or whatever you're going to be using. They are definitely good to write down. So it's a very good point. I think that covers it for today. You'll have the opportunity to ask questions on Friday. If you got stuck in any of this, also feel free to post them and we'll get to them when we can. We do have live time coming up day after tomorrow. Tomorrow, though, Lauren's going to give us a copy introduction so that we sort of know what lies ahead and in store for us for week 2.
Yes, we're going to get deep into the copy pretty fast. We're diving into the deep end. It'll be great.
So just so everyone's aware, I'll pull this up. Homework, continue to think about your logo design, continue to play with it. If you started to work on it in Canva, if you decide that you are done with Canva, if you were in here with us and you're like, nope, not for me. Or if just from the get-go, you're like, I don't have time, want to outsource that, start looking for someone to do that. So I have included 2 links. That was the Creative Lady directory and Outsourcing with Love. And you had mentioned one you've mentioned twice now, but I can't remember it in my head.
Oh, Creative Market, creativemarket.com. And I will say one more thing. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, because your logo is not, in 1,000,001 years, it's not going to hold you back like not starting your business because you can't get your logo perfect will.
Perfect. Yeah, that's very, very true. Like, you move forward, you will have the opportunity to continue to edit this like as you go on. You may have iterations. I mean, I even changed with my website design business, let alone when I switched from health coaching into website design full time. That first website business had an actual different name. So whole new branding, whole new logo for the second sort of iteration where I am now and, really thriving. So just keep in mind, this is all a work in progress.
Always.
Yes. So we'll see you tomorrow for our intro to copy, and just keep playing around with your logo in the meantime. Cheers.